Everybody, welcome to Mystics MMOs. I'm your host, Mystic Raven. All right, so I'm gonna have just a discussion video. I was a content creator for Elder Scrolls for 3 years. Um, Left about 4 months ago due to performance, not bugs, not content, performance. And it's been announced that they are increasing the server capacity and getting new hardware. So in the back of my mind, I've already made an investment towards Final Fantasy 14 and Shadowbringers because I'm just enjoying the game. All right, I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. Um, and new content coming out, good story plot. There's a lot of things about Final Fantasy 14 I'm really liking. So are millions of other players. And literally, I was like, well, would I go back to Elder Scrolls Online? Would I go back? Because it is one of my favorite games of all times because any class can play any role. It's open world, open ended, and besides a lot of the glitches and things that you can exploit in PvP, the PvP is compelling, meaning it has a siege engine. So there are a lot of pros about Elder Scrolls Online. So I'm going to say that initially, but I just kind of keep poking around and keeping my eyes open to see what's going on in the Elder Scrolls Online universe. And then I bump into this post today called "Achievement Points Are Visible in the New Feature Guild Finder." And I'll probably leave a link in the description if I can assign it. But it's in the forums. It's in general forums. And Universe, which is the original poster. Hello, I noticed the character achievement point number is always visible in the application to join a guild. Is it invasive or not? What do you think about it? Simple. And there's a lot of people who have, he's got a poll, 28% say don't change it. Um, Please change it, 40%, other 30. Now, typically, I'm a former elitist, and even though it may not specify which achievements you have accomplished, it doesn't promote new players learning the trials or the hard mode dungeons. If anything, it has the exact opposite effect where it will cater to the elites. And even though I don't really care, for me it doesn't really affect me. It will affect the player base in general. And this can be a downside, just a very toxic tool being introduced. Add this with the combat log and kind of get a picture of which direction Elder Scrolls is heading. I don't really know. I you know I have a precarious position where I know like certain guilds want viable players, right? So I'm going to play devil's advocate. Um, there's going to be guilds that want viability, the players who are able to get the content completed. But then you're going to have the players who, even though they can complete the content, they don't meet the standard or the status quo. And it goes back into dictating which class should be a tank, which class should be healing, which class should be which DPS are permitted, your so on and so forth, and now your achievement points are going to be calculated into this disaster. And one thing I loved about Elder Scrolls is that I've always went against the grain to show that you have viability. But this is a whole new level. And I honestly think that maybe not going back to Elder Scrolls is a good thing. Okay? So, yo, David, what's up? What's up, Irish? How you guys doing? My GT on Xbox shows my achievement score, and no one cries about it, right? I'm not really... Now, listen, I don't really, like, you know, care maybe so much. Like, I understand, but I understand where it's going. Like, and I can understand, like, understand people's frustration with elite attitudes and toxic behavior that's getting, you know, literally fueled into the ESO community. Because to be honest with you, I'm really happy that they're getting hardware. I'm really happy that finally all of these positive things are starting to come to light, and you know, they're thinking long term now, right? They're thinking on the long term element, which is really good. You know, it's great actually. But think about a new player's perspective coming in here into Elder Scrolls, or a casual, or whatever have you. When they go to try to get to the point where they're trying to, you know, accomplish endgame, there's going to be so much criteria that's compounded on their heads, like it becomes defeating. It becomes self-defeating to try to meet everybody's standards. And I get it, though. I mean, I get it that you from a guild's perspective, you want to get capable players. But there's a learning curve for everybody, depending on which position and which role and how many things are occurring. There's a learning curve. You can opt out of the combat log. Yeah, well, that's cool. I'm just saying that's cool. But, and I know you can, but top-end guilds aren't going to allow that. So, imagine this. And I'll be honest with you. I was an elite asshat. Like, I had a full parser. I had access to your rotation as it's being fired in World of Warcraft and in Rift. Well, Rift, not so much. But, I mean, I could lose the separate combat log. But in World of Warcraft, I did. And in Rift, I had a full parser. So, what I'm saying is, we took the best of the best. And if you didn't meet a certain criteria, there was no exception. You weren't in. You couldn't even get in. Like, you were not even going to be able to step foot in the guild. Then, if you made it into the guild, you had to earn your spot. And if you didn't meet performance requirements during raids, you lost your spot. So there were so many things that just kept getting more toxic because of our accessibility of what was like saying, oh, okay, now in Final Fantasy we have a parser, but it's against the terms of service, the TOS, so I don't download it. And I honestly find that majority of the time you don't need it. There is, you know, some content that, you know, you need to, you know, people need to be a little bit more on it than others, but majority of the time, it's the reason the community is so friendly is because Square Enix has said we don't permit third-party programs. If you do this, you'll get banned. They snip out the toxicity before it gets there. And also one thing I loved about DCUO, you can play the end game content in PUG environment. It's like you might not get all your feats, you might not get all your accomplishments, but you could do it. So, you know, I'll tell all new players I meet is to join a progressive guild. They are not trying to get the top score, just complete the content. Right. But what I'm saying is if they're adding points to recruiting methods, it's going to get toxic. It's going to get more toxic. No game is without toxic players. None. There is not one game out there that is not without toxic players somewhere. So, you know, we cannot be naive to say this game is without toxic players. That's bullshit. But the accessibility that players have to become more toxic is apparent. It's like, and now you have community divided. You're dividing this community. And it's like, wow, whoa. You know, for me, like, I would use this tool. Like, I'll be honest with you. I would use the tool to cut out players. I would. I would. As sucky as it is, I would do it. Like, I would get my hardcore hat on. Like, Elder Scrolls, I walked away from Elite stuff, and it's like, okay, if I get it done, I get it done. If I don't, I don't. But, at some point, I want to get this, maybe, under my belt. But at the same time, it was just like, why do I, but you shouldn't have to feel that way. You shouldn't have to feel like it's an obligation to substantiate worth, because you might be coming in new where you don't have all those achievements, or you haven't accomplished these things yet. And guilds need to, groom their player base. The new stuff they are added is to make the so-called elitists happy. Exactly. And right, absolutely. Nail on the head. Boom. It's to make the elitist that much more toxic. And after taking a look at this, I'm like, I take a step back and I'm like, woof, 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 woof. Yeah, you're catering to the niche. You're catering to the small minority. You have millions of players against all three platforms, on all different servers, and you're going to cater to what? 10,000 total players? And you're going to, alienate the majority? It's like, to me, this is not a good thing. This was like, I didn't care about the combat log, to be honest with you. I was like, it's a combat log. I mean, I guess. I mean, it's not like they have a full parser anyways. They're only still running a metrics. And the combat log isn't still going to throw up a full end over parse. So, I mean, it's another tool. So I didn't care. It was like, I don't care. Whatever. I mean, yeah, I can see where it can get toxic, but, here and there. But now when you're adding these type of things, it's taking it to a whole new level. It's like, yeah, which achievements are associated? Like, no, I know they can't see which achievements, but the total points gives players perspective of how much content, how much time, all of these things. And I'm like, oh, snap. Now shit is about to hit, shit's going to hit the roof. It's going to hit the roof. People are going to be like, there's going to be like a total diversity drawn line. And every game has toxicity. I don't know how saying I'm better than you at a game is toxic. That's not what's toxic. That's not what I'm saying is toxic, Dave. There are great players. So there's players who are better at certain jobs than others. Nightblade healing. I'll say this over and over again. I don't think there's a Nightblade healer in the game that could do it better than me. There isn't, in my opinion. Like, that was my main. I could play every class pretty good. I was better at others. I was better at certain roles and classes than others. So, in my opinion, and from what I've seen and what I've ran with, there was no Nightblade healer on my level. None. There was no Nightblade healer on my level. So, at this point, I'm saying, like, okay, is that me being toxic? To admit, hey, saying, I'm a better Nightblade healer than you. I'm a better at this than you. That's not toxic. But when I say, you can't play this, you can't roll with us because you don't meet our requirements. It's just an effect that keeps stacking on the community. Now they're saying, though, it's just one thing after another. You're not grooming your players. You're totally belittling them. You know what I'm saying? they're adding a guild finder so people can find guilds. I totally agree with that. I have no problem with the guild finder. So when I read this, I just was like, the guild finder is great. It's a great tool, to even specify, if that's capable. But what I'm saying is when you add one feature like this, now it's problematic. You've taken a good resource tool and now implemented poison into your community. You've introduced a divide. And it's like, what's the elites trying to do? What are you trying to do? I mean, you don't need that in your guild finder to determine whether somebody is a viable player, is what I'm saying. Because obviously you don't want to carry somebody who can't carry their own weight. And I get that. But what I'm trying to say in the overall essence is when you add things that, say you need this many points accomplished and it has to be set in these areas. But a player's going to be like, well, how can I do that content when nobody will do it with me? Do you see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like, if a player comes in and they are good, how do you know until you roll the content with them? Because you've already had predetermined factors, that you're stipulating. And I'm guilty of that in the past. But we used to, when we recruited, we would take them into a content, run a full parse, make the adjustment, see if they could adjust. So how does the player good on their rotation? What are they like, learning mechanics? And how can I utilize this specific player in my raid group? Those were determining factors for us. And not everybody could cut it. But when you add tools like this, it's like saying, hey, we're going to make it so, it's just, it just alleviates the hassle of you having to even bother trying to figure out who's a good player. Because if they don't have the score, or if they don't have these points, why recruit them? Why even recruit them? Why even give them a shot? And that's the point. It's like, it is toxic. It is toxic. And is it initially evasive? No. I would agree with you. Like, a tool to recruit and to get players and to build your guild, it's a great tool. But you have to be curious on how you implement said tool. Right? You have to be a little bit more. I mean, because you just said it. They're adding it to make the elites happy. At what cost? At what cost? And I don't know. It's like, at this point, I was like, okay, well, I can't wait to try the new servers. I mean, I'm going to be playing Shadowbringers, but maybe I'll go in and check the stability. But then you see these things, and you're like, whoa, guys, what are you doing, man? Are you trying to alienate your player base? You're growing. You just said that you're getting new servers. Why would you add a tool set like this that can be added on and then, totally putting fuel to the fire? Instead of putting the fire out, you're going to get it to spread? That doesn't make sense. You're going to burn your whole game down, man. Eventually, it's what's going to lead to. And it's like, man, stop. Hold on. Time out. Think about this. Today, you're just adding a casual point system. Tomorrow, it's going to be, it's going to specify where your points are aligned. And players are going to say, I haven't done that content yet. Well, until you do it, we can't use you. Well, how can I do it if I don't have a guild to do the harder content? That's not our problem. That's your problem. So you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's damned if you do and it's damned if you don't. So, they have to think about this, man. They have to take this into consideration. Holy shit, kebabs. I was like in here, I can queue the extremes. I can queue the slayers. I'm not limited to that. But to be fair, new players should know their place. But you don't know a player. But what I'm saying is you don't know a player's experience. A new player comes in, right? Now, majority of the time, new players have to adapt. But you have those players. Me personally, I want to see my achievement score. Seeing it's one thing. Other players seeing it. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's like it can be bad. It can be like a lot of people can inspect. We can inspect players in Final Fantasy. Like if I'm in a group, I can inspect you and I know your entire set. I know if you have best in slot. I already know because I can inspect you. But majority of the time, it doesn't stop us from doing the content, right? Now, guilds do what we call them companies in here, free companies. We have companies who do slayers and they do extremes, right? So they can get their, fluff. It's what it is. It's their fluff. It's their ponies. It's achievements, whatever. It's just fluff. But we have progression too. So it's like I have a weekly lockout. I just did my weekly lockout first time yesterday. So I did my end game yesterday. But I did it in a pug environment. It was like, okay, cool. I have never been in here before. I got to learn the mechanics. And I died quite a bit, probably like 8-9 times because I didn't know the mechanics. But regardless, I stuck it out. We had 2 drops on the next to the last boss. The last boss, we got done the first run. So we didn't even have a wipe. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, we have a queue system. Like, Elder Scrolls would benefit from trial queue. Normal and maybe expert or hard mode. Why? Get players in there who can learn the content at that that content. This way they get that experience. Bro, on Xbox, people can see every achievement I've got. It's no big. Well, no, you can lock that out. It doesn't have to be public though. That same thing on PlayStation. PlayStation does that too. But you can hide those. In this, you're not going to be able to hide it. Even if you do hide it, why are you hiding it? You see what I'm saying? It's an in-game tool, is what I'm saying. And I just think, honestly, like, I can see where it's going. I've been there. I've been one of those dicks. I've been one of those douchebags. And that's why I walked away from those games. It was like, I took 2-year break. I took a 2-year break because I was so elite. My wife couldn't stand me. I was such a dick. And she's like, when I PvP, she still says that she can see me, that coming back out of me. Because I'm dick. I was a former elitist. I was the top end of the top of the top of the best of the best. And me and my crew. But we had multiple guilds melt down because of the attitudes. And we've had people who got discouraged or hated us because we were at a certain position where, like, they're haters, they're this, they're that. But honestly, we fed toxicity into that game. We fed into it. And at what point does the company have to say, time out? And that's one thing. I honestly, like, I have to walk precariously in Final Fantasy. Like, I can't, like, type people and say, hey, dude, you're doing this wrong or doing that. I can't be, belittling. I have to be considerate at all times. Why? Because my account's on the line. My account is on the line constantly. So I have to that puts me in check. It puts me in check. I've thought about downloading the parser. I was like, I want that parser. But at the same time, I'm a streamer. And I don't want to risk my account due to that. Because it's against terms of service. And it's like, okay, well, this sucks. I'm just going to have to play the content as is. And I'm having no problems doing the content majority of the time. Yeah, some content's harder than others. I admit this. Certain mechanics are harder than others. And some groups do better than others. You do have those assholes. One guild I have to take screenshots to show my DPS to run trials with. Right. And that's in every game. And I'm saying that. But why give them a tool just to make it more toxic? Like, why give them a resource to make it more toxic? How do you never get tired of repeating yourself? I'm going to put him in timeout. Okay, timeout for that person. But anyways, I'm gonna repeat this. I'm just gonna say, you know, where are we at? I think Elder Scrolls is doing great things. I think the content's always been great, right? Always been a great thing. But then again, it's my choice if I want to run with them. Right. But like I said, imagine if you're trying to get the content, how toxic can it get? Imagine if you're a new player, you've gotten up to a certain point, you're making these accomplishments, now you're ready. You want to learn endgame, right? You want to learn it. You want to get to a position. And now there's a tool that says, well, we saw you on the looking for guild on the board, but you didn't have enough achievement points to get in. And it's like, how defeating is that? You know, how toxic can it get? Question. Will it make it worse? Like I said, we have toxic players in every game, so that's not debatable. We know there is. But how much worse can it get? That's my only question. So from my position, it's like, yeah, maybe I won't bother checking out Elder Scrolls anytime soon. Maybe it's best that I left, because maybe it's getting to a point where, you know, the minority rule. You know, the one thing I loved about DC always tried to keep the content perspective to the player base, to keep it as you know, accessible as possible. They had feats that gave you points to go towards your skills. So you wanted those feats out of the way, right? You wanted to accumulate feats. But at the same time, it wasn't the, you know, the end-all be-all. You could still play the content. And then on top of it, your gear score wouldn't even let you get into the content unless you had the gear score. So it's like, for DC, it was a perfect meld. It had a casual perspective. Players needed a gear score or a CR rating to get in. And if you had it, you could go in, learn it, right? And then move forward. Then maybe use a guild and get feat runs out of the way. Find a guild that is progressive, that runs normal, and is willing to teach. There's really no way around. It's a catch-22. Right. Well, I agree with you. Like, you know, that's what I'm saying. Elder Scrolls would benefit from a queue system into Trials. Add a queue system for Trials. They would benefit from it. Players can learn the mechanics from the initial, and then moving forward, you can incentivize it. There's other ways of doing things. I'm not going to give out all the details, because there's other things that I know how to do that unfortunately the devs are just stumped on. That's their thing, not mine. I don't work for ZeniMax Online Studio. So good luck. But my point of it is I honestly think that this is going to be more of a problem in the long run. And it's going to literally cause way, way more. I've been there. And probably two of the most funnest games I've ever played was not so invasive. So DC never had a problem. I was an elite guild. We had our feat runs. We got our gear within the first 2 weeks of launch of any content, and we got our feats out of the way, and we hit them up. I'll tell them to come see me and join. We as a noob, that guild finally completed normal cloud rest. Oh, like that guild did? You know, like, you know, have I done cloud rest vet? No, I left before. I did cloud rest normal on 3. We were getting ready to do vet. I think a couple of people like was doing vet runs. I was like, okay, well, I still need to do the vet, but I really don't care about the fluff, to be honest with you. But, yeah, whatever. Because it was just like, whatever, whatever. And next thing you know, that's when I just started PvPing, just hardcore. I took myself out of PvE because there was no, like, what am I doing, man? You know, down for a normal trial queue. Right, absolutely. Did you see Sherman fight the dragon? That thing had 17 million. I saw it. Yeah, it was okay. The animation, I'm a little disappointed in the animation, but the graphics of the dragon was amazing. So I love the graphics of the dragon, the look of the dragon, the animation. I was like, and then when I realized the fighting, like when I'm watching people fight, I'm realizing like for a fast-paced combat, it really just, I wish there was more eye candy. Genuine question this time. Okay. Why do you still talk about ESO? If you don't like the game, don't play it. No one forces you to. Did you listen to what the fuck I said, you dumb fuck? I said ESO is one of my favorite games of all time. You can rewind that. I said I've been keeping an eye on it. I left due to what? You dumb fuck. Genuine question. Are you deaf? Did you not hear me say all those things in the beginning? It's there. I said I was keeping my eye open because now with the server upgrade, which I've said it's been needed the entire fucking time. Who was right? Yeah, only trial they did so far, no pulse. Yeah, right. And I said they needed an upgrade. People like you were like, no, they don't. No, they don't. Oh, they don't. Yeah, who was right? I was, motherfucker. And then all of a sudden I said I left due to that. And I said I was thinking about coming back. I'm keeping an eye open. I'm committed to this game already, Final Fantasy 14, because I've already did my pre-order, did all my shit. And I'm leveling stuff. So I'm going to be coming out with new guides and shit. So all of a sudden, I'm keeping my eye open on Elder Scrolls because it's one of my favorite games of all time. And then you get stupid shit getting put into the game. Like, hey, let's make it more toxic. It's like, oh my God, why? Why are you guys doing this? Why? You know? To me, it makes very little sense. It makes no sense. It's like common sense just went out the window. Okay? So, and I probably played way more than you have. Trust you and me. 3 platforms, 30 characters. Trust you and me, dude. And I've done every class and every role. So, trust you and me, yeah. I've done it. But my daughter asked me a question. She's here with my grandkids. But anyways, man, I'm going to let you guys go. I mean, it's just an interesting conversation. I just think that, honestly, I mean, there's your genuine answer. So if people act like I didn't know what the fuck I was ever talking about in the ESO. But I've proven everybody wrong time and time and time again. Now, I have been wrong, and people have proved me wrong, and I have those videos, never deleted them, never tried to hide behind anything. I like it because I feel like we all can learn something. And Elder Scrolls can be a great game, if not one of the best. If not one of the best. But you just can't. You can't. You have to be careful. You got to be very careful how you implement things. Because at the end of the day, it bleeds. It bleeds over. So I'm trying to tell players, and I'm trying to say to the ZOS community, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. And if you get it, it might not be such a good thing for the stability of your product. You want growth, not decline. And this could be a problem in the long run. This could be one of those, issues. Why are games growing and why are certain ones not? So, alright, don't need to take that. I was about to look. Anyways, I'm going to let you guys go, and then I'm going to probably set up a stream here at 11 so I can do my other dailies. But, yeah, kind of disappointing, man. Kind of disappointing to see which direction ZOS is going. It's like, okay, Good luck. I wish you the best. There's ways to actually have your cake and eat it too, but once again, I don't work for them. It's not my job. Alright, it's not my job. Alright, once again, I'm Mr. Craven. This is Mystics MMOs. Thanks, Dave, for stopping in. Thank you, Kel, for stopping in. And as always, have a nice day.